It's been 6 weeks of negotiations and still no Bryan Mbeumo at Manchester United. So what's the hold-up? And more importantly, how is this delay affecting Ruben Amorim's entire pre-season and transfer strategy going forward? We're going to break the video down into 3 parts, guys. Why Mbeumo hasn't signed, how it's affecting Ruben Amorim's pre-season, and the knock-on effect it's going to have for Manchester United's transfer window. As always, please do smash a like on the video, guys. Subscribe if you're new, and let's jump right into it. So first up, guys, why has Mbeumo not signed yet? Well, first and foremost, I think it's quite clear that we're talking about valuation over what United are willing to pay. Now, we know that Brentford are wanting in around the £65 million mark, and they want an awful lot of that up front, and Manchester United are simply not willing to pay that type of money. It's quite clear that that's the case. We've had 2 bids rejected so far. The last bid was, I think, an upfront fee of £55 million with 7.5 million in add-ons. And so it brings it up to, 63.5 million. Sorry, 63.5 million. And Brentford are just not willing to accept that amount. It's quite clear. And I think an awful lot of it has to do with what other players are going for this summer. And regardless of whether those players are going for proper valuations, the likes of Elanga, the likes of João Pedro, these types of players, I mean, Elanga went for 55 million, João Pedro, something similar, and Mbeumo is going to go for just a little bit more, but he's outscored both of those players combined last season. So is Brentford's valuation a fair one for Manchester United? And look, we've spoken in depth before about overpaying for players. And while I am encouraged that Manchester United are sticking to their guns on the valuation that they've got, I mean, are you really overpaying for a player who scored a player who scored 20 goals in the Premier League last year, and you're going to pay maybe 65 million? I don't know really if you are. United are reluctant to overpay, and FFP, of course, has a lot to do with it, and Manchester United are looking to rebuild their image within the transfer market, so I do think that that's something that has to be taken into consideration as well. I think we also got to take into consideration here Mbeumo's personal stance on it. He wants nowhere else other than Manchester United, and I think that maybe plays into, well, it does definitely play into Manchester United's favour a little bit. And does that in turn allow Manchester United to be a little bit more comfortable with getting a deal done sooner rather than later? It was quite clear that Mbeumo said it's going to be Manchester United or I'm happy to stay at Brentford. And I think that in turn also allows Brentford to be a lot more relaxed about the situation. Mbeumo doesn't seem like the type of player who's going to put in a transfer request, refuse, to train. He is back in pre-season at the moment with Brentford this week. And maybe that kind of allows United to have the edge a little bit. Does he come back? Is he 100% in training? Does he want to be there? These are all questions for, a later date. But I think ultimately Ineos and the new structure behind the scenes at Manchester United, they're targeting value for money when it comes to their players, and they want to get the best deal possible. And that is something that I am on board with. I really am. But if it's going to be the case where we end up paying what Brentford want us in the end, why are we taking so long to do this? And that's something that is a bit of a concern. The cutoff date for me, of course, is the pre-season tour to America. You've got to have him in by then, done and dusted, and he's got to be on that plane. And I think we're flying out this day next week, I think, so the 22nd, for anyone who's watching this at a later date. It's a concern. It really is a concern, but I think they're the main reasons why Mbeumo hasn't signed yet. And by the looks of things, both clubs are quite comfortable with playing a long game. That doesn't help us, or it doesn't help Ruben Amorim, and we'll get into that dilemma in a minute. Next up, the impact that this is having on Ruben Amorim's pre-season plans. Now, we know that Ruben Amorim came in halfway through last season and he didn't want to take the job. He wanted to have a full pre-season under his belt before. And he mentioned it an awful lot, didn't he? That, the reason why maybe results weren't as good and just overall a really bad second half of the season is because Ruben Amorim didn't have the time on the training ground to implement these ideas. And we know, look, Ruben Amorim is going to play the same formation as he did last season. You know, the 3-4-2-1 nearly, or 3-4-3, whatever way you want to say it, which are wing backs. And wing backs are vital when it comes to that system. However, aggressive inside forwards are also vital to the way Ruben Amorim wants to play. Now, we've got Matheus Cunha in already, and Bryan Mbeumo, obviously on the right hand side of the two number 10s, is a key area. And we've had makeshift options there, because I think Ahmad has played there and done really well last season. But you talk about the likes of Garnacho playing in that role, Kobbie Mainoo, even Bruno Fernandes when he's a little bit more advanced. You know, we're not chipping in with enough goals, and this system and this formation suits the likes of Mbeumo really, really well. I think, second of all, when it comes to the pre-season plans, I think it disrupts the tactical drilling, the tactical training, more than anything else. He wants high-intensity, transitional pressing, and players like Mbeumo are key to doing these types of things in a game. And we mentioned an awful lot before about the important positions within Ruben Amorim's system. And while all of the positions tend to rotate and transition into different areas an awful lot, I do think that central spine of the team is where it's most important. Your two number 10s, your two number 6s. I think they're the ones that are going to have to adapt more than any other position on the pitch. That doesn't mean that every other position is an easy one to take. It's not. But I do think they're key areas. The delay in Mbeumo coming in means you're talking about, you know, patterns, attacking patterns, defensive patterns, transitional patterns not being worked on as much as you would hope before the start of a season. And, you know, going into a Premier League campaign on the back of such a poor one last year, every bit of cohesion and camaraderie and understanding that these players can get amongst each other can only be beneficial. It really can. And yeah, I mean, the rumour mill continues to spread, and it can't be of any benefit to Ruben Amorim and to the players that are currently there within the squad as well. So yeah, again, pre-season is so vitally important, as Ruben Amorim has said on multiple occasions last season. He was hoping to have his players in by now, and I think the board have let him down. I think Manchester United have let him down. And again, I go back to what we've said about, you know, will we eventually get this deal done for what Brentford want? And if that is the case, why wasn't it done 2 or 3 weeks ago? And that's a big concern. Now, next up, what is the knock-on effect for other signings? Now, look, we know that the Mbeumo deal needs to be resolved before United move for a centre-forward or a number 6 or another centre-back or even a goalkeeper. It's quite clear that Manchester United are looking to balance the books. And we did hear quite early on, before the transfer window even opened, that United had enough money for 2 signings before sales came into effect. And now, has that changed? Because the initial plan was to go for Cunha first, then Delap, and Delap was about 40 to 45 million. Now we're putting an extra 20 million on with the Mbeumo deal. So is that maybe what's causing the delay? I think what's clear here is that Manchester United are focusing on one deal at a time, and that can't be beneficial. It really, really can't. You know, selling the likes of Sancho, the likes of Rashford, the likes of Anthony, the likes of Garnacho is never going to be easy, but you would expect and you would hope that the board have confidence that they can get deals done for them to leave the club. And that in turn then would allow you to maybe be a little bit more confident to get deals over the line. Mbeumo is holding everything up. Not Mbeumo himself, but Manchester United getting that deal done is holding up us going for a centre forward more than anything else. We know that Amorim wants at least one more attacking player, that being a centre forward. And, you know, to define the whole structure of the squad, I think the number 10 is more important, or more, not more important, but I think it's more of a priority at the moment. And we've seen strikers that have been linked with United, that United are potentially wanting, go to other clubs. Osimhen has gone to Galatasaray by the looks of it. Gyökeres is going to Arsenal. Sesko's been offered to Liverpool. Ekitike is going to Newcastle by the looks of things. All of these things are hindrances on Manchester United because of the Mbeumo deal taking so long. And it's a major, major concern. I think what you've also got to take into consideration, again, and we mentioned it in a positive light a moment ago, is the perception that Manchester United now have within the market. We know that they're sticking to their guns on their valuation, but on the downside to that, Manchester United look to be dragging their heels again, and it looks like they're being overcalculated and slow within the market a little bit, and that can't be of any benefit. You know, other players or other agents or other, representatives of players and even other clubs are going to say, are we really going to get into negotiations with them? It took them 6 weeks to do the bloody Mbeumo deal. If we're going to sell one of our players to Manchester United, we're going to need to replace him, and we can't wait 6 weeks for something to be done and then go and try and replace a player when the transfer window is nearly closed. So, again, these are all things you've got to take into consideration. But it does certainly have a knock-on effect. The Mbeumo deal is holding everything up. We've got one player in, so two, I suppose, if you include Diego Leon. And we've got to start moving. And we've got to get this deal done quickly. Not only so he can be on pre-season, but so we can make moves for other players in other positions. So to finish up, guys, again, look, it's very disappointing that this has dragged on so long. I think the danger of paralysis by analysis more than anything else, are we overanalyzing things to try and get deals done? The longer United delay on this, the more risk they take on board about getting their primary targets in before the start of the season. And it's a major, major concern. If Mbeumo was the priority, it should have been done weeks ago. It really, really should have, in my opinion. And the one thing I would say, Amorim is ready. The fans are ready, okay? Are the club going to back him properly now? That's the big, big question between now and the end of the transfer window. So far, they haven't backed him properly or to the level that he expected. The urgency in this rebuild is there to be seen by everybody. It's time now for Manchester United to pull the finger out and get signings in, so Ruben Amorim can have the best start that he possibly can to this season. Guys, I appreciate you all watching. Please do smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. And we will be back tomorrow night, Wednesday, with a live news show, as always, at 9 p.m. on YouTube. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.